Here's a question I get all the time, possibly once a week, sometimes once a day. How much do I have in my S10? 10 years ago I did a video, fast for cheap, when I was documenting the 83 Cutlass I had, what I spent on it, so on and so forth. And 90% of us, or 90% of my subscribers are like me, on a budget. So I'd never actually tallied up and totaled up how much I have in this little truck. But I figured, if I look at things like, oh yeah, I remember this, it costed me this and this, and, till the nickel and dime stuff that adds up. I mean, your two biggest expenses are your drivetrain and your vehicle initial cost. So, and I started thinking about it, I'm like, I should make a video answering these questions. I never made a video before because I never tallied it up. I kind of don't want to know, because at the end of the day it's like, wow, I spent that much money on this thing when I could have bought something else or whatever, but most of us it's more rewarding just to build. So let's get started here. The truck is a 91 S10. I sourced it from Columbia, South Carolina. It is no surprise. It is nice and clean. I live up there in Northeast Ohio, so most of the stuff on the road is not clean. The truck, like I said, came from Columbia, South Carolina. My good friend John brought it to me. The purchase price was $900. I paid $900 for this truck, and he brought it to me in August of 2017. The underneath is very clean. There's no rot at all. Just a little surface on the frame, typical. Floorboard's nice and clean. Yada yada yada. $900. It was a steal. For my new subscribers who don't know, originally this was a 2.8 V6 truck with a T5. What was wrong with it was the throwout bearing on the transmission disintegrated. After 209,000 miles, you would disintegrate too. Obviously, repairing the transmission was not in my game plan, and the 2.8 obviously was not a powerhouse by any standard. That had to go. I sold the transmission, scrapped the engine. Sold the transmission for 200 bucks. So what does that tell you? 200 bucks towards the original purchase price. This 5.3, if you guys remember years ago, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago already, I scored a 2002 Chevy Avalanche for my good friend Walt. It was in a bad front end collision and had a salvage title. I paid $1,200 for the truck. I ended up scrapping it, parting it out some more, and I made a little bit of money. So here lies the free 5.3. Within the engine lies it's a weird grind. It's kind of a custom grind. I tell everyone it's a TR224, but it's really uses two different load profiles. It uses a TR220 on the intake and TR224 on the exhaust. Still 585 lift. I had to call Texas Speed and clarify it. The guy I got it from originally had it was a custom profile for his Corvette. Long story short, Texas Speed cam, pack 1218 springs, and almost brand new LS7 lifters. I paid him 300 bucks for it. But I'm not going to include the price of the intake manifold in the ignition box. You guys can find them used for about $400 or $500 for both, but I don't include that in the purchase price or the build price because I had them laying around from the Cutlass. Not everybody does, but... So, I need more light. The ICT billet, I did a video last month about how do I like it. The ICT billet accessories. I paid I believe at the time $180 for the accessory kit, the bracket relocation kit. Totally worth the money. A lot cheaper than the Corvette bracket setup. You need to run this type of bracket setup to clear the factory hood, unless you plan on running a cowl hood, which adds to the purchase cost. Miscellaneous stuff like the Corvette radiator I bought when I was at the parts store. I think I paid $85 for it. And the Ford Escort cooling fan setup, I paid around 100 bucks for it. I could have went to the junkyard to get it, but when I was putting this thing together, it was the dead of winter. I was like, the hell with it, I'll just spend the money. Yeah, the truck did need some work. I had to put a grill on it. It's an ABS plastic grill, nice and thick. It's not that flimsy crap that comes from the factory. I think I only paid 48 bucks for the grill. I paid 50 bucks for the bumper and 75 for this fender. I hung a door on it too because the old door was all beat to hell, but I got it for free. Obviously this is the type of money I invested in the truck. You may not have to with your project. Wheels and tires, I paid $40 for these old soft 8s that are kind of crusty, but I like them because of the patina. And the BF Goodrich TAs, I paid 100 bucks for all 4. I think I have two 25/60s on the front, and the back it's got two 55/60s. Transmission, NV3500, you hear me talk about it all the time. Transmission is out of a 2000 Blazer. I paid my friend Mike $100 for it. And, sorry, hit the zoom. She's a crusty beast, but she's holding together. Also with the purchase cost, I have the Hummer H3 oil pan. You can avoid that if you want to just notch your cross member. The pan hangs down maybe an inch below the cross member in an S10, but yeah, plenty of ground clearance. I'm trying to think what else here. Anything done to the interior? I know I had to change the gauge cluster, but you may not have to. I think I paid 50 bucks for a gauge cluster. Nothing to talk about in the interior so much. The only other sizable expense I had was the exhaust system. I made that custom Y pipe. I paid 40 bucks for the tailpipe, like 50 for the muffler. And if I was to roughly guess, I have 150 in the exhaust, not including the eBay headers. I paid my friend Dave 100 bucks for the eBay headers. Miscellaneous hoses and clamps, fluids, antifreeze oil, synchro mesh, say 100 bucks and all that miscellaneous stuff. I am running a Demon 625 Street Demon. Great carburetor. I'm half tempted to run fuel injection on this thing. I was really thinking about it, but this thing runs so good, there's no point. No point in it whatsoever. You know, I have to run the fuel pressure regulator to knock down the pressure from 14 psi down to about 4.5. That was 40 or 50 bucks with the gauge. So, I mean, in the nitty-gritty of it all, you can put together one of this truck if you get yourself a clean shell, good engine and transmission on the cheap, for under $2,000. And you're going to get a lot of naysayers saying it's not possible. A lot of the pull-aparts around here, especially here in Northeast Ohio, they're charging $179 plus core charge for a complete V8. And I mean complete V8. Harness, accessories, computer, from the intake to the oil pan. $179 plus core after tax, and without the core, you're looking around 300 bucks. But that's about it. If you guys want to add up all those numbers I threw out at you, by all means. I don't have very much in this truck. It's fun. The weather's been good here. It's been in the 60s all week, 70s. Not a bit of rain until last night, and I drive this thing. This thing's a great daily driver. Long trips, no problem. The cooling system, I've tested it on super hot days, 90+ degree days. It's flawless. It's flawless. This thing never goes over 200, 210, whatever the factory thermostat setting is. But just don't take my word for it. I mean, this is what hot rodding is all about. You find something you like and throw it together. You know, you get a little bit older, and I get tired of a super rowdy cam. A little bit of a chop to it is nice for me, where I still have plenty of vacuum for my power brakes, and I wanted a full exhaust system so I'm not breathing carbon monoxide and not having to go deaf from open headers. You know, your tastes change when you get older. It's amazing what happens in a matter of 10 or 15 years. Hell, I wouldn't mind putting air conditioning back in this thing, but it's a toy. So I hope this clears up some things. I hope this answers some questions. I'm going to title this video Fast for Cheap Part 2, 10 years later. Alrighty. Y'all enjoy your weekend. Hopefully the weather's good wherever you are, and stay tuned for the next one.